very happy to be here. And again, I am Mona Curry, City of Los Angeles Emergency Management Department. I'm going to tell you a little bit about myself, then I'm going to have my colleagues introduce themselves. But before I do that, I wanted to say thank you to Joseph, and thank you to the Omni Hotel for putting this together for the staff and for some community members, giving you guys the options to know how to survive if you're ever faced with an incident. So again, I am Mona Curry, and I've worked for the city for 24 years, and the last 15 of them have been in the emergency management department doing direct emergency management work. Part of that includes training, and so for the last, we'll say 4 or 5 years, the City of Los Angeles has really formalized their Run, Hide, Fight program. And so we have gone out and we have trained a number that is some remarkable number, like over 10,000 people just in the last, say, 3 years or so. And is that right, guys? Is that what you heard? Okay. The number keeps going up so fast, as you can tell, because training is very popular, and you all know why it's very popular. But so our program is just growing, you know, at a rate that it's really hard for us to keep up. So we're glad you're here, and I want to take a second to let my colleagues introduce themselves. They are also trainers.
Thank you. Good afternoon. My name is Monique Pointer, and I work for Los Angeles Metro. I work in the testing and training unit, so I do drills and exercises in emergency management, and I have been in emergency management, safety, and security for the past 15 years.
Hi, my name is Dr. Davis Coe, and I've been a sports and orthopedic physical therapist for about 20 years. My background is more from the Olympic teams that I travel with internationally, so dealing with traumatic events, the event itself, working on situations that are certain countries that were not too friendly with the United States at the time when we were there. And I'm just happy to be here and happy to share with whatever knowledge I can.
Good afternoon, guys. My name is Jose Viramontes. I am a Los Angeles police officer. I've been so for about 28 years. I'm ready to retire. I know what you guys are thinking. He's almost dead, huh? Yeah, I'm 50 years old. And just so you know, you see the expertise you have. We not only have police officers presenting on this subject matter, we have people from the private sector, the medical field, and the Los Angeles Police Department has made it a point to actually diversify the people presenting this training for the mere fact that you guys hate cops. I hate cops. When you guys are driving down the street and you see that cop behind you, you go, oh my God, there's a cop. Put your seatbelt on, mijo. Put the seatbelt. You're reaching for the seatbelt. We can see what you're doing. Give me the seatbelt. Not yet, Mom. Hold on. Let him turn. So we try to diversify this training so you guys enjoy it, and the credibility is more. I did 12 years in patrol, and the rest of my career has been in the detective field. So thank you for having us. Hopefully you guys get a little bit out of it, and you pass on the word, and we can maybe do it again sometime. So thank you, Mark.
You guys keep that. Okay, I'm switching mics. Is this mic on? No good? Good? Yeah? No? Good? Bad? Is it good? Check. Okay, good, right? Okay, so thank you for bringing that up, because yes, we have trained somewhere over 200 trainers to deliver this program, and not all of them are sworn, so some are civilians from various backgrounds. And the reason we do that is because we're in the second largest city in the nation, right? In our city, we have over 4 million people, and there is no way that if we simply relied on our sworn brothers and sisters, that they would be able to train as many people as we need to receive the training quick enough, right? Which is an invitation to all of you. At some point, if you feel like you can deliver this training in the future, you would sign up with the name outside on that poster, Mike Briano, send him an email. Now, we only do the Train the Trainer once a year, and it's extremely popular. So if you represent a big company and you say you want to train your employees, we would be happy to train you to do that so that you can help all of your colleagues and your families survive if they are faced with an active shooter situation. Does that sound good? Okay. All right, so let's start our training. It could be about an hour, maybe less, depending on how many questions you have. We did talk about saving them to the end, but if you have that burning question, raise your hand and we'll try to address it just so that you're engaged and also so that you don't forget it till the end. But if we have too much dialogue, it'll take much longer, and then we'll kind of pause on the dialogue part. So we'll play it by ear, but I want you to feel comfortable to be engaged and comfortable to ask questions. All right, so let's start our training. What we're going to do is we just did our introductions. Further on in the slides, we're going to look at active shooter statistics, and then we're going to talk about what an active shooter could look like. And then we're going to tell you what your options are and how to survive an active shooter. And then at the end, we have some other resources for you that you're going to find helpful too, which could save someone else's life as well, which is really stop the bleed. But we'll talk about that in a second. All right, so I do want to give this warning. Some of the material is graphic. Now, in my career as a trainer, I can recall 2 specific trainings where I trained this program, and a person ran out in tears, and then another person started crying in the training. Reason being is that we have had some of these incidents kind of close to home, right? So one lady said, you know, I was a student at UC Santa Barbara for that incident, and she just really got emotional. So I have to give you this kind of disclaimer or this warning that you might see some stuff in here that was maybe a little bit scary, but it's completely real, but still maybe a little bit scary. So I just want you to prepare yourself for that, get your minds ready, so you're not shocked at that time. Sound good? All right.
What is your emergency?
There's a guy over here. He just walked in with a gun and he's threatening some people. I think he works at the warehouse. He started to shoot.
Oh, come here.
The shooter in an apparent murder-suicide at the Johnson Space Center had received a poor job review and feared being fired, according to police reports.
A resolution authorizing the purchase of an electronic reader board sign.
Get down, get down. Everybody get down.
New Hope City Council members ducked under the desk when they heard gunfire.
Somebody got shot. Stay down.
Watch on the left side of the screen. One of the city council members draws his own weapon. Police say the city council wasn't the target. Police officers fresh out of the academy had just been sworn in inside the council chambers.
Described only now as a male black, walked into the lobby of the West Traffic Division you see behind me, and for an unknown reason began shooting at the officer that was assigned to the front desk.
negotiators have established contact with the gunman.
This is something we constantly worry about. The threat is always there.
The City of Los Angeles has a no-tolerance policy towards threats and violence. Please keep in mind at all time the principles and policies that you will be discussing today. There are many resources available to you, but the most important thing to remember is that if something happens or is said that makes you concerned for your workplace safety, report it immediately. Thank you for all you do. Have a great day and a safe day at work.
Okay, so we're just kind of setting the stage for you. Okay, getting your mindset in the mood to, receive this information. I'm going to show you another very short video.
What is your emergency?
There's a guy over here. He just walked in with a gun and he's threatening some people. Hey, I think he works for the warehouse.
My fault. This one. Okay. Wait, I got to get this right. Next one. Okay. So now I just want you to think to yourselves. You don't have to have any answers at this point, but if something were to happen, let's just say you heard gunshots coming from down that hallway, and you're fairly confident they're coming this way. I just want you to ask yourselves mentally, what would you do right now if you heard those shots? And just save that information for later, because then you can compare it with what you're going to learn. All right. So what is actually an active shooter? So an active shooter is an armed person who has used deadly force on other people aggressively with unrestricted access to victims. That's what it is. So there are other situations where somebody may be a shooter, but they have a target. Let's just say I'm a disgruntled wife and I'm upset with my husband, and I purposely go to find him at work and shoot him and kill him. So I'm not technically an active shooter. So there is a difference. Now, active shooter is kind of a broad term. Someone who can cause a lot of deaths, fatalities, can also use other things like trucks, which you'll see in a case study, or knives, right? So the term active shooter is kind of a loose term, meaning somebody who has intentions to kill as many random people as possible. That's basically what that's about. Okay, so here's some basic facts. You can see here 7 mass shooting incidents per week, 1 per month. Does that sound about right? Yeah, what you guys have been seeing on the news, right? So is the trend going down? No, trend's going up. Okay, but check this out. Most of these incidents are over in 30 minutes or less. So I want you to keep that in your mind, because that's significant in how you respond and how you think about responding. Okay, and then so here, because why? Here most incidents are over by the time law enforcement even gets there. So if you have that in your mind, what do you think that could possibly tell you? If you just raise your hand and shout it out to me, what do you think that could possibly tell you? Anyone?
You're on your own.
You could be on your own, right? Do you think you should wait for law enforcement to arrive to save you? Why? Knowing what you know, what you just read here. What would make your chances at survival better? Waiting or acting? All right, there we go.
Can I add something to that?
Yes, please.
By the way, 30 to 30 minutes, was it 40 to 30 minutes?
Well, 30 minutes, but 4 minutes or less. Most are over.
If you were shot and you're a victim, how many people think that as I come in to neutralize the threat, I'm going to stop the help? Raise your hand. I'm here to address the threat. So you're going to have to lay there while we address the threat. It's going to be a while. This is why we're having this training, to give you insight on what to do in case something like this happens. If you notice in the video, the guy that is doing the shooting is very similar to what these guys do. They've trained. They've very methodically gone through and very calmly executed the plan where people are running around chaotically. So they know exactly what they're doing. So you guys have to make sure we start formulating that plan, and that's what we're planning to see now.
Right? And now this next video is interesting. This is by our former president, President Obama. And he says something that might be a little confusing at first, but then you take it in context, and we'll talk about it after, and then you'll understand what he's talking about.
Be clear. At some point, we as a country will have to reckon with the fact that this type of mass violence does not happen in other advanced countries. It doesn't happen in other places with this kind of frequency. And it is in our power to do something about it.
Okay, so that's important. Who thinks they understand where President Obama was going with that? Anyone, yes? Just kind of, do you guys, just somebody want to say it? What you think that he's talking about? Yeah. Right. Okay, yeah. So with that in context, you know, our chances of being involved in an incident are higher here. So this is the point. Even though we're a developed country, a leading country, we are still very, very aware that it can happen here with frequency, and it does. Now, I have to be smart about this.
Be clear.
Oh.
At some point, we...
Okay, here we go. This is a very fancy mouse, okay? I do not have this mouse. It's new to me. Please forgive me. There's even a button down here. Okay. All right, so check this out. We just talked about it. Down at the bottom, number of shootings, 133. What? Is that even possible? Right? Canada, 3. Australia, 2. They just got one a couple weeks ago, right? So now they're at 3? Well, you have to keep it in context. They have a lot of killings, but they're not mass, like active shooter. So, for any input on that?
They don't fit the definition
Yeah.
of active shooter. They're all cartel related.
Yeah, drug related doesn't count, okay? That's crime. That's right.
It's all business in Mexico. Sorry.
Norway, Switzerland, right? 1, okay. And total number of, yeah. So these stats, 2014, we don't actually have stats that go through 2018, but I can guarantee you that if we had a new set of stats, it would look very similar to this. Yeah, the numbers would all be higher probably across the board, but America would be way high. All right. What do you notice about this slide? If you look at those yellow round circles, what does this slide tell you? Any ideas? Yes, big cities, very good. What's the importance about the big cities? Why is that significant? And so if I am an active shooter and I've planned to go and kill as many people as possible, that's the thing. I'd want to do it where there's lots of people gathered, right? It's not like I'd go to farmland, and kill the farmer. So that's the significance, and unfortunately for us, we live in the second largest city in America, right? So we have to be very, very aware of where we are and what our chances are of facing an incident. It may never happen to anyone in this room, or you may already know someone who it's happened to because of the incidents that we have had locally, right? But it's up to us to be prepared. Another slide just showing you that the trend is going up, the trend is not going down, right? Well, this one does go through 2016, so it's a little newer. Another one. We could show you these stats all day long. Okay, the numbers are going up. All right. But now with everything that we've just said, and even the slight mentions that I've done about the local incidents, is there anyone in this room that just thinks that it could never happen to you? This would never, ever, ever happen to you. Raise your hand if you think it would never, ever happen to you. Raise your hand if you think that maybe it could quite possibly happen to you or someone that you know. Is that the case? Raise your hand if that's the case, right? So some people still don't think it'll happen to you? Okay. All right. Now this is interesting because I want you to be aware of your environment wherever you are. So now we're here at this beautiful hotel, the Omni, great hotel. So could an incident happen here? It could. What about when you're shopping at the mall? Could the incident happen there? What about at your place of worship? If you're on a campus, say university or even elementary, middle school, high school, well, the largest percentage here, commerce, meaning kind of retail areas. So education, a lot of people see the incidents that are taking place on our school campuses, and that is a big chunk of it. But also government, we did have a couple incidents in our own city here. We had one in Piper Tech, which is a building, I don't know, about a mile from here, where we have some, some city departments in there. So we did, as a city, have internally, a couple active shooter incidents. Open places, we'll remember that truck incident that happened in Nice, where the man ran down a bunch of people with his truck. Homes, but places of worship and healthcare and hospitals. So the point of this slide is to let you know that it can happen anywhere. Now, we're talking about the Omni Hotel, but you always have to keep in mind wherever you go. So you could be out, you could be on the Dash bus, right? You could be at the Hollywood Bowl. You could be, not that these things would ever happen there, but you never know, right? You could be at the movies, right? Have we had some incidents in movies, in movie theaters, right? Okay, so it can happen anywhere, right? And all the circumstances are all different because the environment is different. Here are some examples of those international ones. Remember, we're just setting the stage, reminding you that this stuff is real. You remember what happened not too long ago, last year in England. And that one I just mentioned in France, where he just mowed people down with his truck. And that other one that happened in Germany during the holidays, you guys remember that? Right? I'm not going to go too into detail with these because I think you guys are really here for the meat of it, which is run, hide, fight. Kind of what happened here in our country. These are fresh, right? What happened just in Florida. We've now got a whole new crop of students who are now activists because of it. October in Vegas, right? Any one of us could have been at that concert, right? Now notice that's 58 fatalities. Now, Orlando, Florida, 2016, 49, that was the largest number of killed in an active shooter incident until we just had our Vegas one, which raised that number up to 58. Now, one of the goals of an active shooter is to kill as many people as possible. And believe it or not, there are folks who try to exceed records, okay? So now we're currently at 58. There's some nut out there thinking about how he can get higher than 58. I guarantee it. Any input on any of these that happened in our nation?
Yeah, just a reminder, the one in Las Vegas, you utilized the hotel, so it's good that you guys understand that they might not be at the hotel, but they can still use the hotel for the purpose of trying to kill as many people as they can.
So the hotel could be a part of it in some way, shape, or form, right? And then, you know, what would that mean to you? All right. What about locally? We're getting closer to home now. UCLA, which was, we thought at first it was an active shooter. We keep it in the presentation because something happened out of the UCLA event, and that was the use of our phones. So prior to UCLA, we used to say during the hide part, turn off your phone, because when you're hiding, you don't want to take a chance of having your phone like alert you and making a sound, and a shooter being able to say, hey, there's someone in that room. It's, you know, even though the lights are off, I hear, and then them going and continuing on to try to get you. So we used to say, turn your phone off. But when we had the UCLA event, they were doing good things with their phone, like looking at how to survive or alerting other students on, you know, what was going on, but in silent mode. So now we don't say turn off your phone, we say silence your phone and maybe keep using it. But you know, it's entirely up to you. So again, that one was reclassified. It's not an active shooter. And then San Bernardino, that was huge for us regionally, right? You guys remember that one? That was crazy. It was so close that we activated our EOC because we had no idea if that shooter was headed this way to the city of LA. So we opened up our center and we were monitoring, looking for anyone coming to, because we also have regional centers here. We didn't know if they were specific targets or what. That was crazy. Now, Elliot Rodger, that's the Santa Barbara, the kid who, well, you'll see more. I think there's another slide on it that talks about he was upset because none of the cheerleaders would date him. Remember that one? And he's significant because there were so many signs, which we call leakage. There were so many signs that if people had only picked up on and taken action, those killings could have been prevented. Well, we'll talk a little bit more about that. So could these incidents have been prevented?
So, can everybody hear me without the microphone? So I don't have to walk on. Thank you.
Because he's, yeah.
So most of you guys think it can never happen to me, right? Because I was in the same state of mind. I'm in law enforcement. We always prepare, but it could never happen to me. About 2 months ago, my wife's shopping at the Glendale Galleria, and she hears gunshots. She's with my son, who's 12 years old. I've got a 32-year-old, a 27-year-old, and I took a chance for that 12-year-old. I'm like, I got to have another one. Wow. So in saying that, my wife knew exactly what to do. We're going back to the car, we're getting in the car, and we're driving back home. There was a lot of screams, a lot of chaos. It didn't turn out to be an active shooter situation, but it did turn out to be a robbery in progress at the jewelry counter at Macy's. Thank goodness for that, right? I say thank goodness, but you know. Incident number 2, and I'm going to take you back to 2008. My son meets a young lady at a gym. He's working at a gym, And his name's Joseph. I love him. He's the ugliest kid in the world, but I love him because he's my son. Oh, he's so cute to me. I kid. He's a cute kid. But he meets this girl and he says, Dad, I want you to meet this girl. Her name's Monique. It's a great girl. I want you to meet her. It's Christmas Eve. I'm going to go to her house and then I'll come to Grandma's house in East Los Angeles where we celebrate New Year's Eve. And I said, son, I haven't seen you in 3 months. I said, come over to Grandma's. Oh, Dad, you don't understand. She's so cute. I really like her. You got to meet her. I'll bring her after we go to her grandma's. I said, son, come on. I haven't seen you in 3 months. He comes from a broken home. So for whatever reason, I was pushing. I'm never pushy. I'm the easiest going guy. Just go, just go. I was pushy. I hadn't seen my son. I wanted to see him on Christmas Eve. It was a tradition. He says, Dad, that's fine. That's fine. I'll come over to Grandma's. Maybe I'll go to Monique's grandmother's house afterwards. I said, great, son. Awesome. I got so happy. I'm driving to Grandma's house. He's there. We settle in. We're having fun. It's Christmas Eve. Big tradition in my house. Monique leaves to her grandmother's house about 6 p.m. Grandma lives in Covina, California. At about 11 p.m., my son had turned off his cell phone. About 11 p.m., he says, Dad, I'm just going to stay here the night. I'm good. I'm having fun. I'm like, oh, thank God. Turns off the cell phone. We turn it back on. He turns it back on at 1 a.m. to check his messages, and it's his mother. He's got 152 messages, and I'll remember that number in my head, from his mom. 152 missed phone calls / messages on his phone. And he goes, Dad, I got to call Mom back. She called me 152 times. I said, don't call her back. Hand me your phone. He goes, I wonder what she wants. And he's not thinking the way I'm thinking. I said, give me the phone. I use his phone to call her, and my ex-wife says, have you been watching the news? I said, no, I have not. We've been at the festivities. He said, a guy dressed in a Santa Claus suit walked into Monique's grandmother's house and executed about 14 members of her family. My son would have been there that night. I get a little emotional about it. You know, I get that, it's my son, he's so ugly, but I love him. He would have been there that night if I wasn't so insistent on staying home. And just to give you the background, and I'll give it back to Mona, Guy is estranged from his Monique's aunt, estranged. They're going through some problems, separation / divorce. He hates her now. He goes out, custom makes a Santa Claus suit to fit different guns and ammunition in that Santa Claus suit. It's custom made for this guy for that purpose. He goes over to Covina, California, dressed in that Santa Claus suit, armed to the T. And the first person who opens that door in Covina is an 8-year-old girl who says, Santa Claus is here. He shoots her in the face. That girl survives, by the way. She's in high school now, great gal. He then proceeds to execute members of Monique's family. What do you think? Monique was sitting in the living room when this guy walked in, so she's watching members of her family be executed. What do you think saved Monique? She ran. She ran past her brother, unfortunately, who passed, who was upstairs in Grandma's bedroom listening to his iPad. It's still, I mean, hearing her talk about it kills me because she feels very guilty. There's a guilt thing afterwards. But she ran, jumped out a second-story window, hurt both ankles, but ran to safety. So when we give you this information and you're sitting there going, Charlie, that's Cholo for it'll, so no way, Charlie, means no way. It'll never happen to me. When it does, if it does, you can now lead anybody and everybody who you encounter and say, hey, I know exactly what to do. Follow me. And you can take action. So thank you. Don't worry, don't get all sad on me. June 30th this year, my son's getting married to Monique, so we have a wedding to go to. You're all invited. Everybody's invited. Come to the wedding. Come to the wedding. And I'm going to be the minister. I have to throw that in. I got to tell you the story real quick. Sorry, Mona. You're looking at an ordained minister right here. I'm ordained. Anybody can do it, 30 seconds on the internet. You can.
I don't want that.
I'm going to marry him.
Keep the mic. Keep the mic. Great story. Thank you. All right. So he did say some interesting points, because I'm betting that at some point that fake Santa Claus had some sort of leakage where he might have told somebody he was angry at somebody, or bought, an excessive amount of guns, some sort of indication that somebody could have picked up on, right? You guys following me? All right, let's look a little bit more into that. So prevention, 75% of school violence is known ahead of time. Most people who are likely to commit violence rarely act without showing some kind of signals, which we call leakage. I've shared that with you. So it's very important for you to stay aware of people's behavior, okay? Now, when I'm out, I'm walking, I'm shopping, I'm doing whatever I do on a daily basis, I'm downtown, I'm eating lunch at a restaurant, I'm aware of where I am and who's around me. You better believe I am. I'm also aware of other things like exits. But there are some signs that are sure indicators, especially if paired with other signs. So let's look at this guy, okay, the guy from Florida, the Parkland shooter. He was able to kill 17 people and he wounded 17 people. From what you remember on the news, do you think there were was leakage happening here? Do you guys remember? I know there's so many incidents, it's very hard to keep them straight, even in my own head. But there was some leakage. Wait, before we go on, does anyone remember what that was? Yes? Yeah, he made a video. Okay, if I make a video of something like that, I mean, somebody should say, hey, this is a weird video. What's this crazy lady doing? What else? Were there any other signs that you remember? Yes? Oh my God, tortured animals. Right? Do you think that's normal? I don't think it's normal. There were other signs too. We're going to talk a little bit more about other signs, but does anyone have an idea of what an active shooter looks like? Any ideas? Right? They could look like anybody. I mean, I can tell you what most of them kind of seem to fall in line with. Most of them are usually men who are probably loners, usually white. But guess what? This next slide is going to show you that that's not always the case. And that's why it's not necessarily a good idea to just keep that image in your mind, because they could look like this, any one of these people. So there's not a lot of women, but there are some. So you shouldn't just totally say, well, even though she's acting crazy, she doesn't fit the general, characteristics. I wouldn't do that if I were you. Just keep in mind now, some of these people look outright bat crazy, right? I don't know if this has a pointer. It does. Okay, look at those eyes. Wide open. Does that look normal to you? No. But somebody else, this guy, they look normal, right? Look, he's in a military outfit or uniform. Look, these guys do. So it could look like anybody. So what you have to watch for is signs, some things that they do. Okay, what could that look like? Let's check it out. All right, someone who's going through depression. Now, some of us have been through depression. Do you think that in itself is a sure indicator? No. But when you start adding up these other indicators, then those chances of that person becoming an active shooter go up. So there's also someone who's talking about, like, for example, let's just say I go to work and I tell my coworker, yeah, I'm really getting my will together. I'm giving away all my stuff. You couple that with some other things, People don't usually talk about those kind of topics at work. Sometimes they do, but not usually, right? But when you couple it with other things, or I start, let's just say I'm watching the news at work and I run news 24 hours because we have to stay aware of everything that's happening in the nation because of the nature of my job. Let's just say I see an incident on the news and it says active shooter was killed 20 people. And I make some weird kind of statement that goes along the lines of, what? That's it? If I were there, I would have killed at least 25. Is that normal talk? No? So you guys have to be aware of this kind of stuff. Blaming others, always angry, history of violent threats. Now that Piper Tech incident that I told you about that happened within our city, I remember it happening. And what happened was the fellow who committed the shootings, the day before, he got, you might remember this, he got a bad review, okay? A bad review, performance review, would make me angry. But I wouldn't necessarily pick up a chair and toss it across the room, would I? I mean, that would indicate that something's weird's going on with me. Well, he actually did that. The next day he comes to, nobody said anything about it. The next day he comes to work and he actually goes around and shoots up his coworkers, okay? So that kind of stuff is not normal, and you have to know this stuff. Someone who feels rejected, like the kid up in Santa Barbara who the cheerleaders wouldn't date. Suicidal thoughts, no. Exit strategy, he wants to die. I say he, forgive me. The person wants to die. Drug use, grievance, or injustice collector, meaning we've all been wronged and I'm going to make it right. I'm going to teach them a lesson. That's what that's about. And interestingly, usually they target victims of their own age. So the kid at Santa Barbara, you know, he killed other college kids. Just think in that context too. But not always, right? So there's really no main like profile. We really try to avoid that because we want you to be aware that it could be any, you know, it could look like any person, man, woman, any ethnicity, age, young, older, right? Okay, now let's see here if I do this. Okay, got this weird thing here. Okay.
Hi, Elliot Roger here. Well, this is my last video. It all has to come to this. Tomorrow is the day of retribution.
3, we have 2 black and 1 red.
The day in which I will have my revenge against humanity, against all of you.
Multiple gunshot victims in front of ID Deli.
You will finally see that I am, in truth, the superior one, the true alpha male. Yes. After I've annihilated every single girl in the sorority house, I'll take to the streets of Isla Vista and slay every single person I see there.
Okay, so you remember what that one was all about, right? He was very upset that nobody would date him, and he was going to get justice. Were there signs? Could somebody have possibly prevented that from happening? I mean, videos are real signs, right? That's like real, tangible stuff. Okay, good, I did it right. All right, so here are some more warning signs. I don't know where the mic is.
Okay, so these are some of the more intermediate warning signs that you want to look for. A lot of these, in the slide before, they talked about grief collecting. They start stewing over, the girlfriend broke up with me, my job gave a bad review. Things start piling up and they start getting angry. And you can see the pattern, well, if you pay attention, that there are patterns where they start collecting grief. Things become more and more compounded until the time that they decide to act on that. Some of these, the intermediate warning signs are the signs that you want to take a look at. And suddenly, what will also happen is during that time, they've also been planning at the same time. So the Isla Vista shooter, he had bought his guns years before he actually used them. And so by the time when he hits that, when you see the angry blogs, the angry messages on Facebook or whatever, and when they stop and they suddenly are happy and suddenly they seem euphoric, they've already made their decision. They've already committed to their plan of action. So that is when that is the most dangerous time. Some of this information I got was a little bit about my background also, not only as in the medical profession, but just being part of the FBI Citizens Academy, as well as their InfraGard, their private corporation division. And so some of this information came from that. But the thing is that once they've made their decision, they've made their decision. And the bottom thing, what does that bottom thing say, the bottom line? If you see something, say something. Okay, medically, when you have that gut feeling, that is not some imaginary thing. That's actually biological. It's an area, center called the amygdala. The amygdala is your emotion center of your brain. So when you have that sick gut feeling and you don't know why, it's already processed, something is wrong. So when someone goes, here, let me help you with your bag. So one woman that was brutally raped, and she wrote a book about it. So she had her bag. She goes, no, let me help you with your bags. He comes right into the elevator. She's like, why is someone coming out that is not part of her complex, wants to suddenly help her carry her bags? I'll take it to your apartment for you. So something in her gut was saying something wrong, but she kind of overrid it. She didn't want to be rude. She didn't want to be, just kind of standoffish or seem racist or whatever. She kind of went against her gut feeling. The amygdala, what it does is it senses all the surroundings. Unfortunately, once they got to her door, he barged her in and she was raped. And conversely, I'll give you how that actually saved her as well. The amygdala, what will do is it'll process things. Something is wrong. That look is wrong. Why is he wearing a trench coat? Why is he wearing all black? Something is off, and why is he asking me this? And before your conscious mind will override that, it's already processed that. Then it's instilling a fear. Something is not right. Something is threatening. And so you can't process it yet. Just like when you put your hand on a stove, a hot stove, it's already processed that it's burning. Your hand will react before your conscious mind realizes that your hand is burning. It doesn't have time. So the same thing. So when you have that gut feeling, something's wrong with this person or this situation or something's not right, just act on it and go with your gut, literally. And so some of these, when you see something, say something about that person. And going on with that scenario, she also had come, when he said after raping her, he went to the kitchen because I'm just going to grab some things, and something in her gut said he's going to murder me, and which was the plan. I think he had killed other people similarly, and so she happened to walk out while he was looking for a knife to kill her. So something in her gut told her something's not right. He's going to do something even worse. He's not just going into the bathroom or to the kitchen. And so if you see something, say something. And for Elliot Rodger, again, some of the barriers to entry. So he stabbed his roommates. So if you guys didn't know that, he stabbed his roommates beforehand, and then he went to the sorority house. Couldn't get into the sorority house, they locked the door. So there was a barrier, so that's when he started shooting people outside, the first three sorority members. And then he also used his car. So he used a knife, he used his car to run over people, and then he shot people at the same time before he shot himself.
Yes, thank you. Keep that. All right, so more warning signs. Now, if I go to work every day, and you usually know that I'm kind of, I'm sad, I'm depressed. The next day I come in and I'm just like super happy. What do you guys think about that? Does that sound normal? I just went from, 0 to 100. It's probably not normal. Why do you think that could be, that I'm coming to work because I'm super happy? What could that mean? Any ideas? Well, I could have just developed the plan in my head, my revenge plan, and now I'm happy because I think I got it worked out. I'm going to get you back. That could make me happy. That's not normal. Okay? We talked about these things already. This is kind of a reinforcement of what we just went over, but if you see something, say something. Okay, here's a couple more tips. We talked about the man with the wide eyes. What does that mean? If they're looking like this glossed over stare and their eyes are super huge, what could that possibly mean? Something's wrong with them, right? It's not a normal look for a normal person. Hands, they're real fidgety. Now, mind you, if you just see one clue, it may be nothing, but when you see multiple clues, your gut, like he said, your gut is probably right. Okay, clothing. So, yesterday it was pretty hot. It was like 90 degrees in the valley, but I'm walking around with a trench coat or some big, outfit, Santa outfit, something that I can hide. That's not normal, right? That's a sign. Facial characteristics, body language. Sometimes you can tell, right? Go with your gut. Not telling you to be paranoid and look at everyone as a possible active shooter, but you have to have some basis to fall back on, some knowledge that you have where you can put pieces together, right? Oh, this is interesting, the 5 phases of an active shooter. So in my mind, I've developed that plan. Okay, I'm starting to fantasize about what evil plot I'm going to carry out. Now I'm super happy. I do start to plan it. Do you think an active shooter just wakes up and says, oh, I'm just going to go out somewhere and just shoot up a bunch of people? Not usually. Usually that involves a lot of planning. Why? Why do you think they would go through a lot of planning? Anybody? To meet that goal, okay? Because they want to get that number up. So they're going to plan for success, right? Preparing. What things could they do to prepare?
So you have to realize that active shooters, most of them suffer from mental illness. Depression signs, things that are going to get them engaged are triggers. Everybody's going to require a trigger. They've had it. Some may not even require a trigger. They determine on this date. Can anybody tell me Hitler's birthday? April 20th? April 20th is correct. Why do you think that's important to some of these guys? Correct. So as we get closer to some of these dates, be aware. Everybody has a gut feeling. I remember working patrol, walking into a location, and I didn't feel right. I said, you know what? I don't feel right. I said, partner, back up. He says, why? There's nobody here. I said, just back up. He says, why? I said, let's go back to the patrol call and let's get a car and let's get another unit. He says, well, I don't understand. This is like an abandoned building. I said, listen, I've got about 10 years of experience. You've got about 3. Listen to me. Let's go back to the patrol car. We did so. There was a guy inside of the warehouse that we were about to search because the alarm had gone off, ready to execute a police officer. Never saw the guy. Never saw him. I just didn't feel right. I said, you know what? I'm going to err on the side of caution. And the guy goes, how did you know? I said, I didn't know. I just felt it. You guys have that same feeling too. Some of the things that these guys are going to do is, like the Santa Claus guy, start buying guns 6 years apart. What they're going to do is they're going to start piling weapons, ammunition. They're going to start buying army fatigues. They're going to now start executing a plan. And you see that Elliot Roger was not freaked out. Did he sound angry to you guys? He sounded more condescending and coercive and sarcastic. You'll see. Some of these guys are so methodically planning to execute so many people in their minds, and we have to be prepared. You have to be aware. You have to raise that level of awareness. How many people from HR in this room? HR, thank you. Your job is tough, right? Go talk to the guy that I saw the hands, I saw the sweating, I saw the eyes. Go talk to him. Your manager says, oh, cheese it. I'm not going to talk to him. You go talk to him. Send Larry. Say, Larry hasn't talked to nobody in 9 months. Send Larry. Go send him. Hey, Larry. Oh, no, I'm not. That guy's crazy. I'm not going to talk to that guy. Right? Because you guys know. You guys know. The guy from Florida, was it Parkland? Everybody knew who he was. It's that guy. He was 19, graduated. It's that guy. You guys all know. You guys all have that gut instinct. Make sure you guys follow it.
What about practicing? Do you think that they practice? Right? Right? Again, why? Why do they practice this plan? Because they want those kill numbers. And then, of course, it happens. Okay, another case study, Sandy Hook. This is really going to talk more about, there were leakage signs. Okay, if I remember right, my colleagues correct me if I'm wrong, this guy wasn't really a driver, okay? He just had his driver's license. And he would only go to one place and back. And that was home to the school, home to the school, home to the school. What do you think he was doing? Right? But his whole driving record revolved around that, right? This guy, the Vegas guy, the recent guy, kind of a successful man, right? Different characteristic, right? I don't think he lacked for means, so he had the ability, financial ability to buy what he needed to buy to make it work for him. Okay, this is an interesting one, the Columbine. You guys all, this was a huge one for us in our nation, right? It was kind of a milestone event for us. Want you to notice, what do you see in the middle picture and the picture to your left? What do you see there? Interesting, right? So they're thinking out of the box, not necessarily running out that door, but thinking out of the box of ways to escape. Virginia Tech. You guys remember that one? Yeah. UCLA, that recent one. See what they're doing? They probably Googled that. How do we hide part to barricade themselves in the room. Very successful there. Do you have anything to add on Virginia Tech or? I mean, there's so many. We could talk about them all day long.
Yeah, Virginia Tech is an interesting thing, and I work with a doctor. We did a threat assessment presentation on Cho, but that guy was just stone crazy. There was signs, there was leakage everywhere, but nobody acted. It was just stone crazy. As a matter of fact, he actually wrote a paper on how to hurt people. One of his instructors read this and he's like, it's all right. The other thing is that we teach run, hide, fight. Some of you guys are thinking, I'm just gonna play dead. Well, cool, play dead. But some of the folks in the Cho incident were actually shot on the ground playing dead. So if you're gonna play dead, think, what are my options and what may happen if I play dead? Think of it, play through your mind, you're gonna have to. Right? If I play dead, oof, he just shot me. Are you gonna scream? So consider that.
Something to think about. We'll get into a little bit more of that in detail. Oh, yeah.
The only thing I would add was that some of their motives for the Sandy Hook was that he didn't want the other children to grow up like him. So he wanted to save them by killing their lives. So some of the motives are not just being angry. They think they're doing it for righteous reasons. They're doing it for some reasons to save people, to help people, and that's some of their motivations. And some of those, like the Columbine, the narrative had changed a little bit. So the narrative before was to wait, right? Is that correct? Mm-hmm. And then after that, when people are hiding, waiting, they're just shooting people under the desks. And they were actually, it was supposed to be a Columbine bombing, I believe. But the bombs didn't go off, so it became a Columbine shooting. And one of them was there to kill as many people as possible. The other student was there to die, wanting to die. And so they both had different motives through the same venue. And so the other thing I forgot to mention, the reason why I brought that FBI thing is, one thing I heard that they told me that was eye-opening is that 85% of their tips come from citizens. 85% citizens give them the tips to lead them to people to avert a tragic incident. And so for me personally, I was treating an FBI SWAT member, and he actually had to leave immediately. And I said, oh, that's fine, I understand. And so he left, and I said, what happened? And he said they had got a tip. There was a gay pride parade at Westwood at the Federal Building, and there was a suicide bomber strapped with a vest, and he had to leave. They caught him, and while the parade is going on in the middle of the parade, they grabbed each arm, each appendage, and walked him out. And so you don't realize how much you can help somebody, and that was really eye-opening to see that. He told me he came back, and that's why he had to take off from his physical therapy treatment to avert a potential bombing right in the middle of the gay pride parade, right in Westwood, and through the help of citizens seeing something and saying something.
Yeah, you would be surprised that we actually do a fairly good job of stopping things before they even happen here in LA, because we have a coordinated effort, and so you don't hear about them, so you don't know about them, so these other incidents that actually do take place really stand out. But now, I think this is the meat of it, right? So we're all aware that these things do happen. They can happen. They may happen close to home. We hope not. We don't want you to be paranoid, but we want you to be aware. We talked about what to look for, and there is such thing as leakage and the role that you can play in that. But then, if it actually does happen, what are the options that you have? Well, before we even go into that, we want you to know that there are no guarantees. So you've taken this training, we've given you your options, but every incident is different, right? We talked about that. Today we're here in a hotel. You could be at the movies. You could be in your place of worship. You could be at the mall. You could be in a restaurant. Your choices and your options will be different. They'll all be different in every single case. But knowing what your possible options are can save your life, the life of your family, your children, your parents, your coworkers, and just strangers, right? So bravo to you for being here. Okay, so no one tactic will always be the correct choice, but let's go in to learn what those tactics actually are.
It may feel like just another day at the office, but occasionally, life feels more like an action movie than reality. The authorities are working hard to protect you and to protect our public spaces. But sometimes bad people do bad things. Their motivations are different. The warning signs may vary, but the devastating effects are the same. And unfortunately, you need to be prepared for the worst. If you were ever to find yourself in the middle of an active shooter event, your survival may depend on whether or not you have a plan. The plan doesn't have to be complicated. There are 3 things you could do that make a difference. Run, hide, fight. First and foremost, if you can get out, do. Always try and escape or evacuate, even when others insist on staying. Encourage others to leave with you, but don't let them slow you down with indecision. Remember what's important, you, not your stuff. Leave your belongings behind and try to find a way to get out safely. Trying to get yourself out of harm's way needs to be your number one priority. Once you are out of the line of fire, try to prevent others from walking into the danger zone and call 911. If you can't get out safely, you need to find a place to hide. Act quickly and quietly. Try to secure your hiding place the best you can. Turn out lights, and if possible, remember to lock doors. Silence your ringer and vibration mode on your cell phone. And if you can't find a safe room or closet, try to conceal yourself behind large objects that may protect you. Do your best to remain quiet and calm. As a last resort, if your life is at risk, whether you are alone or working together as a group, fight. Act with aggression. Improvise weapons. Disarm him. And commit to taking the shooter down, no matter what. Try to be aware of your environment. Always have an exit plan. Know that in an incident like this, victims are generally chosen randomly. The event is unpredictable and may evolve quickly.
Left, slice and give them back.
The first responders on the scene are not there to evacuate or tend to the injured. They are well trained and are there to stop the shooter.
Shots down the ball. I got rear.
Your actions can make a difference for your safety and survival. Be aware and be prepared. And if you find yourself facing an active shooter, there are 3 key things you need to remember to survive. Run, hide, fight.
Okay. All right, so the first option and your best option is to run. Okay, best option. Now, what happens if you're ready to run and someone that you are with isn't ready to run? Right? Because they're scared, they're frozen. Some people do that. We're going to talk about mindset in a little bit, but there could be someone in this room who, hopefully not because you've had the training, maybe somebody else not in the room who hasn't heard the training, and you're like, I'm out of here, let's go. And they're just like, well, you know, at that point, that's when you have to make your choices, right? Choices are different for all of us. At that point, I say, look, I love you, colleague. We've been working together for 20 years, but I'm out of here because I got to go home and I got to see my daughter, right? So what are some other things about running? That's your first option. Be unconventional, okay? That could mean breaking a window and getting out. Take a weapon along. Why would you take a weapon along if you're choosing the run option? Because you might run into the shooter. You don't know, right? Leave your belongings behind. Yeah, I got a Louis Vuitton purse, but I'm just going to have to leave it. I can buy another one, save up for a couple years, but I'll buy another one, right? I can't wait for you. I can say, hey, let's go. That's my part as your friend, as your colleague, or just as a good human being. Hey, let's go. I hear something. You know, some stranger you're talking to. If they don't go, they don't go. Now, this last bullet really talks about someone with a disability. Maybe they can't run, technically can't run, but they can still try to get out. Okay? Everyone's different. We all have different abilities. We're going to see a little bit more about a video for helping anyone that has a disability, just giving some ideas on what that could mean. Because if you have a disability, that doesn't mean you're just going to wait there. That means you also take some action. Some of that could include if you're at work and you know someone has a disability, you might not know because we don't want to disclose our disabilities to everybody, right? But sometimes they're visible. You could have a buddy system, maybe a couple people deep in case that person's on vacation, but we never know, right? What about hiding? We talked a little bit about hiding. We talked about how we used to say turn off your cell phone. Now we're just saying silence it so someone can't hear it. Because the point of hiding is to make the shooter believe that nobody's in this space. Because what is their ultimate goal? Shoot as many as they can. And they know their time is limited, it's short. They want to reach that number. Not going to waste time on a room where they're unsure there's actually people in there when they can keep going and hit more targets, right? Okay, now what about if I'm hiding? Let's just say I'm hiding in this room. Are there some weapons? Are there possibly some weapons in this room? Yeah, I need to start thinking about that, even though, right? Even though I'm not in fight mode at this point, I'm in hide mode. I still have to be ready, just like when I run, I still have to be ready to fight if that becomes the case. And we'll talk a little bit about you know, what other things in this room, because I see I see a lot of stuff here. I honestly do. Okay, and also, if you're, AFN stands for Access and Functional Needs, and we left off the D, because it's really D, AFN. If you have a disability or an access and functional need. Practice hiding with someone who might have a disability and acknowledges that and shares that with you. Make a plan beforehand. We use this assistive devices, wheelchairs. Some of them are heavy, some of them are light, but some of them are heavy. Just like when the lady pushed the copy machine in front of the door because she was trying to barricade herself in so the shooter couldn't come in. We've even talked about using a heavy wheelchair possibly to barricade if that's all you got, right? It's all about thinking out of the box and surviving. Any questions on this hide part? Yep.
Before I walk into 7-Eleven now that I'm older and I've got a little bit of experience, before I walk into that 7-Eleven, I get out of my car and the first thing I do is peek through the window. Why do I do that? Make sure it's not being robbed, right? The last thing I want to go is, I'm a cop. Walk to that window, the guy goes, give me your money. I'm like, but wait, hold on. You don't want to be surprised, right? And in the same token, what you guys want to do is when you guys hide, you guys want to make sure that you guys leave there and be aware if you put that copy machine in front of that door and it doesn't open in your direction, it opens the other way, the guy's going to have a copy machine in front of him. He's going to, hey, guess what? You're going, I didn't notice that door. I should have put the copy machine on the other side of the door. But then the copy machine's on the other side of the door, right? Things to think about, right? Awareness.
Right. And there is another level where we actually practice with you. We're not going to do that today because of our time constraint, but it is possible to do that in the future. All right, let's talk about hiding considerations. There is a difference. There is a real difference between just taking cover and concealing yourself. So if I am taking cover, ideally in my mind, I'm behind something that could hamper a bullet coming through to get me, right? But if I'm concealing myself, let's just say I'm in a room with large curtains and I go stand behind the curtain, maybe you don't know I'm there, right? But am I really taking cover, or am I just concealing myself? Right? So you might not see me, but if the shooter shoots that direction, yeah, the curtain's not going to save me. So just knowing, like little tips on knowing certain things like that about even which way the door opens and closes, that's part of your knowledge base, things that you would consider when you're taking these hiding options. Now this is the last option that we really teach. It's like your worst case scenario, fight, the fight option. Now, if you choose this option, you can't choose it halfway. You got to be all in. Okay, there's no halfway about it. You got to give it 1,000% of your effort. Okay, because this could be your last chance at living. So you can't really put a lot of time in planning, right? Oh, if he does that, I'm going to do that. No, a lot of it's going to be instinctual, and you can train yourself to think that way. So now let's talk about some other things in this room. We could, I don't know, the chair. What about the chair? Do you think I could hurt someone with a chair? Yeah. What else? Oh, yeah. No. I cut him in the throat with that, right?
It's pretty
right?
heavy.
Look at that. Yep.
Maybe. Remember, you're not going, what can I pick? You're grabbing and going, right? Or if you're decided, hey, let's go.
What about the tray? Hit him in the face with the tray, that thing right there, that black tray. What about hot water? Okay. Now if there's more than one of you, I could throw something, avert their attention, and the other person could attack them from another direction. A glass. Would you like to get hit in the head with that glass?
It looks painful.
Yeah, it looks painful.
I can't shoot and duck at the same time.
What about this laptop? If I hit you in the face with it, I closed it and then went bam, do you think that could stop you? Might not permanently stop you, but it give you time to take another action, right? What is that?
This is amazing.
Right?
Oh my God, this is so amazing.
Metal brick.
Where do you buy this? I want one of these at home.
It's for catering.
Oh my gosh. Now, Mona brought up a good point. So you got to be all in, right? When you fight. How many of you guys have been engaged in a fight before? Raise your hand. Any fist fight in school? Right? Some of it. I grew up fighting. My wife asked me, dude, why do you hate school so much? Because I went to school to get my butt kicked. That's why I hate school. We were first generation immigrants from Mexico. So I went to school and all white folks, and all they want to do is pick on me and bully me. My huaraches weren't the right color, right? So my wife says, why do you hate school? Because I went to fight. So if you guys ever pick something like this up to engage an active shooter, make sure you are all in. Mona said, engage. Specific sounds when you hit a human body are not pleasant. At that point in time, HR hates when we say this. You're vested. It's your life or theirs. I say this. Every time I went to patrol, I said, you know what? I'm going to go home tonight because I'm going to eat my turkey dinner, I'm going to kiss my kids, and I'm going to put them in bed, I'm going to tuck them in. Same thing with you guys. If you value that life and you run into that coworker that says, no, I don't want to roll. I love you, but I got to go because I've got kids, a family, a grandma, grandpa, and everybody else. So I'm going to engage and prepare for those brutal sounds that are going to sound horrible, but I'm going to survive.
All right, so what about someone who does have a disability? Maybe they use a cane to walk. That's a weapon, right? Totally a weapon. If I broke my arm, okay, I would smash someone in the head with my cast. That could hurt, right? That sounds pretty painful. So it's about your mindset and how important is it for you to go home and see your family. Okay, that's what's going to dictate the actions that you take. Now the fight option is the last option. Okay, the best option is what? Run. If you can't run, Worst case scenario? All right, very good. Colleagues, do you have anything to add to that? Yes.
So about the fight part, last week I decided I was going to take public transportation into work. I've taken it before, but for very short distances, like 3 stops. So I'm taking it all the way from Long Beach to downtown LA. And I'm excited. I'm a really friendly person. I get on, I'm smiling, I'm looking around. Everyone else, their heads down, they're on their phone, no eye contact. A gentleman looks at me and smiles, and I smile back. From 0 to crazy in like 10 seconds. And so I'm thinking like, oh my goodness, this could be bad. And I'm not armed. I usually carry pepper spray. I didn't have my pepper spray because I didn't bring my purse. And so I'm searching my bag. I'm like, what do I have in my bag? So you can find things that you wouldn't ordinarily think of as weapons. No one mentioned the fork in here at the table. No one mentioned the knife that's here at the table. Even though it's a butter knife, it can be used, you did, as a weapon. So the only thing I had in my bag was an ink pen. And I said, I don't want to get this close, but if I need to, I will definitely poke him in his eyes with my ink pen. So there's lots of things that you have on your person or at your desk that you can use as a weapon.
Excellent, excellent. Yep.
The running part, the one thing I want to share is a story about anyone from Orange County? Okay. So do you remember the Fashion Island? It's in Newport Beach. It's an outdoor mall. And so there was a shooter just shooting automatic weapons in the air. And so there's near Christmas time. So one of my patients worked at the Whole Foods in the Fashion Island. And he said when the guy ran in and said, "Act, shooter, shooter, shooter," everyone dropped their Louis Vuitton, Prada bags, Gucci bags, and they started running. So when you do run, if it's in a mass area, the one thing I did hear from him was he saw them running violently. So you have to also be aware, even as you run, he said there was a grandmother that there was an 8-year-old in her way, grabbed that 8-year-old, threw her against a pole, bashed her head trying to get out and trying to escape. So you have to be, that thing, so even just the panic can happen. And so there was mass panic, and he did tell me there's about 300 high-level purse bags that are left behind in the lost and found. Fortunately, I showed up 30 minutes after that whole incident, and I didn't know why it was so easy for me to shop that day, the day before Christmas, until I found out later what had happened.
I want to piggyback on that bus story. You know, you're learning these great options for your survival, but we hope that you take these things back to your family members at the very least. So I'm just going to tell you a little quick funny story. My 27-year-old daughter, we often go to the Hollywood Bowl and we see the jazz at the bowl. And the way we do it is we park our car at the zoo and we get on the bus because you guys know that it's crazy parking there. I remember sitting on the bus with her 2 seasons ago, and I said, "Sweetheart, look, you know, I just got to, every now and then I like to kind of ask you questions. I want to make sure you listen when I tell you stuff. Because we know that our children, they don't listen to us when we talk. They listen to other people, but they don't listen to us." I said, what would you do if an active shooter came on this bus right now? What would you do? And I remember her going, "Mommy, are we really going to do this right now?" I said, look, all you got to do is come up with some options. Tell me about them. So she did, and it was over. But I want to make sure that the stuff that you use, that you learn today, you share with everyone you love at the very minimum. Sound good? Sound like a good plan? All right, let's continue here. Okay, what in this picture do you think could be used as a weapon? Just shout it out. Excellent. Keep going. There's more. Excellent. What about the Spider-Man mask?
What the heck is going on here?
So you could shock him and surprise him? And then somebody else could do what? Right? Because do you think the shooter would be expecting someone to pop out with this mask? Right? You freak him out. Right? Okay, here are some things. I think we probably got them all. What about in this classroom? It's lots of stuff, right? What's on the floor? I don't know. These are some things. There's more, even more than what's showing here, right? Another story. I run 5 times a week. I run with my girlfriend who's a teacher. She teaches kindergarten. One thing I do is that, people that I love, I really make it a point. So I remember we were running up Latuna, and I said, hey, Teresa, if an active shooter ever came in your classroom, what would you do? She gave me these answers that she thought, made sense. Mind you, she's got, 20, 25 little ones that, right? Talk about impossible situation. So I said, look, you got to hide them. You got to find a way to keep them quiet. You got to lock that door. Got to turn off those lights. Guess what? Recently, up in Palmdale, that's the district that she works in. Did you guys remember something happening a couple weeks ago? She was in lockdown in her classroom, right? Now, the school didn't really follow. You didn't hear this from me, okay? The protocol. For some reason, they gathered all the kindergartners in the one classroom. And she sent me a photo, because we were texting through this ordeal. She texted me a photo, and it looked like about 100 kids in a room. I said, Teresa, turn the lights off, make them take a nap. She's like, I can't. They're not, right? But she knew at least she had some ideas. Of course, she wasn't the one making the choices. But anyway, back to yes, it could happen to anybody. And this classroom makes me think of her. All right, so again, I don't have a gun. Is all hope lost? No, because I don't have a gun, but I have a pair of scissors, right? I don't have a pair of scissors, but I found a letter opener. I couldn't find a letter opener, but I had a pencil or a pen, right? Could get them right here too, right? I don't have a shield, but I found a clipboard or a catering tray, right? So I don't have a gun, but I see a fire extinguisher. Wow, would you like to get hit in the face with a fire extinguisher? That could stop someone. And that's the point, right? Okay, we're coming to the finish line, guys. All right, other options. We talked a little bit about negotiating. It's not a preferred option, but it could be an option. Could it work? Maybe. But you have to keep it in context. Do you think that the shooter is serious about killing you, or do you think he's there to have a conversation with you and you could possibly change his mind? I would not take that negotiating approach myself because I don't think it has a high probability of being effective. But you may, okay, you may. Playing dead. Some shooters will double shoot you. Okay, you're playing dead, they're not sure you're dead, they just shoot you again to make sure you're dead, right? Because they want you to be in their number. Okay, not giving up. I remember one time I taught run, hide, fight somewhere, and somebody said to me during the hide part, we're not allowed to lock our doors. This was in an office setting. It's against company policy. What do you think I said to that person? Yeah, you lock the door. So you got to think out of the box, and what's right for you might not be right for me. What's right for me might not be right for you. All of these options are personal, moral, and ethical based on your own beliefs and, of course, on the situation. Okay, when police arrive, did we talk a little bit about this? Do you want to take this one?
I'll make this quick. I know some of you guys have to go back to work, but when police arrive, we're going to gear up. We're going to get ready. we're going to formulate a plan. We're going to get together as a team. We're going to be dynamic. We're going to go in. I know in Florida there was a guy who didn't go in. He says, dude, I'm 2 days from retirement. Cheese it. I'm staying in the parking lot. Hey, guys, he's over there. Dude, you got a gun. I got a gun. I have to go in. So be mindful of the fact, as we go through rooms methodically, we're going to identify the rooms we've searched so they're not searched twice, and we're going to be very, very thorough about searching rooms. Once we get through one room, we're going to, in essence, mark it with some kind of sign that it's been searched. If you happen to be a victim laying there bleeding, we're not going to stop for you. Unfortunately, our job is to neutralize the amount of casualties and stop the threat. We're going to the sound of the killer. At that point, we're going to tell emergency services, or medical services, what we have. If you notice in the first video that we saw, you heard the words one black, one red. Can anybody tell me what they meant by that? One black means dead in medical terms, triage terms, he's dead. We cannot help him any further. I might say that. We got 2 black, 1 red in the lobby, whatever it may be. Follow officer's directions. Please, when you see a police officer, do not have a cell phone in your hand and run at me like this. That's probably a bad idea. I would keep my hands where an officer can see him in plain sight and verbalize with the officer, and please listen to his command. Don't be like my wife. We were at a liquor store and I saw something that I wasn't comfortable with. A guy was robbing another man and he was methodically going down his victims, and I was filling up with gas, and I'm like, oh crap. I walked in my car and I told my wife, give me my bag. I didn't say give me my gun. I said, give me my bag where my gun is. She goes, why? Why do you need your bag? I said, just give me my bag. She goes, you want your bag again? All you do is tell me what to do. I'm like, just give me my bag. I'm just asking for my bag with the gun. Oh, you need your gun? What do you need your gun for? I'm like, I'm about to die. So make sure you guys follow directions. We're going to be very clear. Put your hands up. Let me see your hands. Walk to me, turn around. You're probably going to get those commands. Let me see your hands, turn around. We want to make sure you're not the shooter. If you have pieces of information, don't give them to me until I ask you. What is he wearing? What does he look like? Is he armed? How long ago did you see him? Things like that. And you guys understand you're going to see dead bodies. That's just a plain fact. There's going to be people laying there. It's going to be, mentally, you have to prepare yourself. We talk about mental preparedness. Be prepared. There's going to be casualties. You know what? Right there, right at that very moment, you're going to have to understand that that's just a fact, and be prepared for that. So clear directions from police officers, follow directions, make sure we see your hands at all times. Those hands kill us, so we want to make sure we see the hands. All right?
Right, and adrenaline is pumping for our law officers that are responding. You don't want to make it a bigger problem, right? Because you're not following directions, just automatically no. Make sure you're visible so there's no confusion, no mistake. And don't try to grab them because you're freaked out and scared, right? Because they got a job to do, you're just in the way. All right, let's speed it up a little bit. If we have a disability, there are certain things that you can do to help your coworkers or your family members, okay? These are some examples of things that we came up with Cal OES, which is the State of California Emergency Management Department. I flew up there, I gave them my thoughts on it, along with my partner, whose name is Kyle Campbell. We flew up together, we gave them our thoughts, and they made this document, and now there's this whole set of recommendations for people with disabilities. It's a great read. You can Google it if you'd like, if you know someone that has a disability and you want to find out how you can help them a little bit more. Okay, stop the bleed. So there is something here. We're not going to go into a deep dive on this. We're just going to gloss over it because we're running out of time. I don't even know how long your lunches are. But just maybe 5 seconds on stop the bleed.
Okay, so 93% of the wounds or the injuries that cause death could have been prevented. And so when a Secret Service agent carries, they carry around a pouch, and what they're carrying around is a tourniquet, chest seal, and trauma bandages. So that is why, to minimize, can it be prevented? The number of deaths can go down if the ones that are shot don't bleed out. And usually they'll bleed out within, if it's a leg, about 3 to 4 minutes, it's an arm, about 7 to 8 minutes. And then they're gone. But those are survivable. So stopping the bleed, when you have a tourniquet or a homemade, anything, a belt, anything you can, make it as tight as you can, as high as you can on the arm and on the leg, as tight as you can. And don't worry about the stories you see on TV where they have to amputate because they cut off the blood flow. That can last for a couple hours or even up to 4 hours before some permanent damage happens. So likely within 4 hours they're in a hospital. And that's why when you have surgeons, when they do surgery, they're doing a surgical tourniquet. And that's why they can do that for a couple hours and then let it loose because they're not afraid of things happening, okay? So stopping the bleed, preventing another death from happening is a way that's something that we can do. Tourniquets, trauma bandages, and chest seals for people that get shot in the chest. They can't inflate their chest anymore. It's a simple chest seal pack that you can just put on them. And they're all available on Amazon, but you can look that up.
Now this came up during the Boston Marathon because other runners were helping other runners who had injuries from the bombs. Remember the bombings? So that's when the government decided, let's do the Stop the Bleed program because we can minimize the fatalities if, say, for example, I stop his bleeding if he's shot. I can help him. If I can, right? If it's safe to do so, then I don't need him to bleed out waiting for an ambulance to arrive. Okay, if I can save his life, I will. And that's what the Stop the Bleed program is all about. Letting you know that if you can save your colleague or your family member, just do it. Stop the bleed. One guy even put his finger in a hole to stop the blood coming out because he didn't know what to do. So yeah, right? Think outside of the box. All right. All right. Let's talk about mindset real quick. Case study, we're not even, okay, let's talk about this real quick. So this guy, he tells people to line up. All right, so this table, don't do it. This table, I want you guys to line up there. So he's in there, he's killed people already, you know that. He tells you, line up. What are you gonna do? Right? Not line up? Well, these people, some people did. He was going down the line, killing each of them, until a couple people towards the end figured out, hey, I'm not waiting for this, then they ran. So that's mindset. Are you going to fall in line with that? Or are you going to use your options? Okay, how do you develop a mindset? Now, normally there are 3 types. So there's instinctive, okay? Some people just are born without that fear, right? They're instinctively going to take some kind of action. A lot of us are not like that, but we can develop it. We can grow it. And you're taking step number 1, being right here listening to this instruction of developing that mindset. So I see, let's just say, I think, I'm just imagining this. If an active shooter came down that hallway, what would I do? I'm developing that mindset right now because I'm already thinking about it. I already have a plan. I am developing it. So I could be in the movies, sitting down, watching a movie. Okay, if something happened, what would I do? I'm developing that mindset, right? And then there's those people who will be in denial and they will never be able to react. Those are the screamers, the hiders. And don't just think it's women, because men do that too, okay? I know we saw the 2 women in the videos. No, men, even big football players, I guarantee it. Okay, so developing the mindset, visualize, prepare to do the unthinkable, because you got to tell yourself, this is really happening to me. Okay, now I'm speed talking. Okay, some examples of heroes. These guys took action and they survived. Do you remember these incidents? Kind of recent, right? Parkland shooter, awesome. Some people that took action and they sacrificed themselves. It's your choice. It's your choice depending on your situation. All right. Questions. Here's your chance. We can do a round of speed questions. Does anyone have any? Got the mic ready? No questions? You guys feel comfortable, confident? Run, hide, fight? Okay, what about see something, say something? You want more information on that? There are resources that you can pass out to your colleagues, right? Thank you, guys. Thank you for listening.
I just want to thank you guys on behalf of the hotel for coming. I really think we learned a lot today. If you guys can, go to your colleagues that weren't able to come to this training and share the information. That's a great tool to the hotel, and let them know what you guys learned today. If you guys also can sign, those that are employees here at the hotel, the training roster sheets for me, I'd really appreciate it, and I'll collect them afterwards. But let's give you guys a round of applause for coming through. I appreciate it.